Hello friends, welcome back to History Makers Training Day 5, June 2018. My name is Babosha and we're about to start our third section. And I am happy to introduce to you our next guest, Dr. Anu Ojo. Let's put our hands together and welcome him. Woo! Make sure this one is facing your mouth.
My mouth, yeah. What if I just keep it up? Yeah. All right. Hello, everybody. Hello. All right. So it's so good to be here, and I am very grateful to Dr. Sonny for the opportunity to be a blessing and to share something I'm really passionate about. My name is Anu Oluwapo Ojo, but being in Ukraine for over 8 years now, my name is a very good name. It means the mercy of the Lord is abundant. Yeah. But then somehow the length of my name has not been so merciful to my Ukrainian teachers, because many of them, they just by trying to pronounce my long name, Anu Oluwapo, and then my second name is Oluwafisayomi. So before they say Anu Oluwapo Fisayo, they're like, like headache for them already. So I go by the name Anu Ojo, just for clarity and for people to also remember my name. So we've learned so much from today's presentation and from today's teaching from DSC, and generally from the whole training on the art of questioning. But today I will be talking about something that really comes strongly in my heart, and the title of today's presentation is How to Make Questioning a National Value System. How to make questioning a national value system. Let me start by giving this as a preamble. If you guys are very if you are very observant, you would notice that there is a direction to all of the teachings and the lessons that Dr. Sunday has been giving us. If you pay close attention, you realize that it is directed not to yourself as the end, but is always talking about nation, about Africa. So we're learning the art of questioning, which you could apply in your life personally, which you could also be the end of the whole lesson entirely. But if you're very observant, you would realize that most of the lessons that Dr. Sunday is teaching on the art of questioning is directing it towards national transformation, towards the revolution of Africa as a continent. Why? It is because God would have us to not think only about ourselves in life. As a matter of fact, anybody that thinks only about himself or lives for himself alone is living at the least form of life. That's the least form of existence, you living for yourself. So all of the things that we've been learning throughout this HMT is directed towards a specific purpose, which has to do with the transformation of a nation, right? And that's what we've been learning. So that is the reason why, for example, today we're learning about scientific methods and how this could not just transform our lives, but how this could transform Nigeria, how it could transform our nations, and how it could transform Africa. Why? Because if you remember what Jesus gave as a mandate to his disciples, which actually is also our mandate, the mandate was for us to go and to do what? To disciple nations. And by nations there is not talking about only Nigeria or America or Ghana or Zimbabwe, no. But the nation there talks about a sphere of life, a sphere of influence. So that means seated here are people who God has given a mandate to disciple nations. Maybe you're not called to disciple your nation as a president, but you might be called to disciple the nation of women. You might be called to disciple the nation of men. Your sphere of influence might be media. It could be business. It could be diverse spheres. But all of the lessons that we are learning is directed and should be directed towards discipling a nation. That is when the knowledge that we are getting here and the understanding would make sense. And that's when God will be proud of us, that we have learned something from here and we are using it to disciple nations. All right? Do we get it? Yeah. So that's what I want us to think. And that's the reason why I'm talking about how to make questioning a national value system. Now, on the other hand, if you guys are also very observant, you would realize that everything we've been learning boils down to one thing, and that's value. Everything we've been talking about boils down to value. I mean, what we have inside of us, our inner content. Why? Because it is from what we have on our inside that we're able to live. So we live our lives from what we've been able to acquire on our inside. And our values actually represent what we have on our inside. So this topic is very important because it is talking about the most important information we've been getting so far, which has to do with the values that we have formed in ourselves, our core values. And the second importance is that it is addressing a nation. All right. So now we want to now see how we can make questioning a national value system. Are we together? Yeah. Are we together? Yes. All right. Now, so the next thing I want to talk about is I noticed that we use the word HMT a lot. And probably some of us might not associate the HMT to what it really denotes. And what is HMT? Who knows what HMT is?
History Makers Training.
History Makers Training. Now, I want you to say that again, maybe to make better sense to you. History Makers Training. Let's say it again.
History Makers Training.
What does that denote to you as a participant? I would like to say that. Now, you saying it again. History Makers Training. Did it make any sense to you? Did it strike any chord in you? Did it bring you to any certain reality?
From the name of the training, what is struck in my mind is that we are trained here to do something that is not just for us here, or it's not just for our generation, but it will be for history for the next generation, which means it will not end here. Even after we are not living anymore, some other people will learn about our products from what we have learned from here.
Amazing, amazing. Can we just clap for her? That's amazing. Great, great, great. So from what she just said, she's saying that by virtue of your presence and your participation in this training, it means it has set you apart from the vast majority of people who are living, who would pass through this earth with no one noticing that they actually lived. So what it means is that if you're here and you came to attend this History Makers training, you are here to be equipped to be a history maker in your generation. What that means is you are yet to get what it would take to write your name in the annals of history. What that means is that if you are here and you're here in this training, you are here to get what it would take you to stand out from every other person in such a way that just the same way we remember people who have made history in the past, they can call your name and they can associate your name with something, a product that you use in transforming this world. Now, a quick example. I'm going to mention some names who we all would agree are history makers. And I want you to just say aloud the first thing that comes to your mind when I mention that name. All right?
Yeah.
Good. First, Nelson Mandela.
Apartheid.
Apartheid. Martin Luther.
Protest.
Reformation. Good. Martin Luther King Jr. Civil rights. Okay, let's now talk about some people now that are living. When I mention Michael Jordan, what comes to your mind? Okay. Okay, so that's basketball, right? I'm so sorry. All right, thank you. So Michael Jordan, basketball. Lionel Messi, football. Yeah? Oprah Winfrey, talk show. Okay, now let's mention your name. Now, mention your name and I want you to ask. Okay, now, cool. Now you mention your name and ask yourself what people associate your name with. For example, let's say Mayowa. What's the first thing that comes to your head about Mayowa?
Talk show with DXA.
Talk show. Now, as funny as this might sound, this is really what makes a history maker a history maker. People must be able to associate something with your name. They will mention your name and they can say, oh, like Nelson Mandela apartheid. That is what makes a history maker. They mention your name and there's an association of a product and something that you used your life for on earth. That when you are gone, when you're no more here on earth, you still keep living because of the history you've made. All right. So now, me that I'm talking, when they mention my name, Anojo, what comes to the mind of people? Values. First, people will say doctor, and then the next thing people will say is what? Is values. And why? Sorry, my pointer is not working. Okay, cool. So, now, you guys can see this picture. This is Nigeria and a value system, and this is a talk show that I do on Facebook. And you guys see the Dr. Value system I wrote on top, right? Now, the Dr. Value system I wrote on top is the name that some people decided to call me because, number one is that I was trained as a medical doctor. So most, like for example, Ms. Babu introduced me as Dr. Anu. And some other people associate Anu with what? With value system. Now, that is the process of making history. They must mention your name. That's just it. I mean, this doesn't mean you should limit yourself to one thing. But the way to move from mediocrity to relevance is that your name is associated with something you're using your life to do. Something you've found, you've discovered, and you've just devoted your whole existence into doing. That when they mention your name, they can associate that thing with. The same thing with value system. So now when you remember Anojo, the first thing that comes to your mind is values. What that means that I just stand out from every other person. So that's something that you also have to ask yourself. That what exactly do I want my name to be associated with? That is the process of making history. All right. I don't know if you guys get it. Who wants to say something about it? About what I just said, then we'll move. If you get what I said and you want to give a feedback, let me know. If there's anyone, or I'll continue. Okay.
Is it same? All right. Yeah, okay.
It's essentially like the legacy in which you as an individual want to leave on this earth, the print that you want to leave on the planet and stuff like that, so that you can better help the world in learning or accepting or in a sense achieving in their future and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the word there is legacy. Legacy. So the question you should ask is, what legacy do you want to leave? All right. So let's continue on our presentation. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about values. What do I say here? I say values must be intentionally and systematically instilled into the consciousness of a nation for growth and development. Let me read again. Values must be intentionally and systematically instilled into the consciousness of a nation for growth and development. Now, I want you guys to pay attention to two key words there. Intentionally and what? Systematically. All right. Intentionally and systematically. Now, look at the picture I placed there. Now, before this person who is building these bricks began building these bricks, he already had in mind to build these bricks. And he didn't just by happenstance build what we can see. He did it intentionally. And it was done in a systematic way. In such a way that he could produce what we can see here. The same thing with values. And why is it that values must be intentionally and systematically instilled into the conscience of a nation? It is because our values are so important. Why? Because it is our values that informs our decisions. It is our values that informs our behavior. So when you see people act in certain ways, their actions are just mere expression of the values that have been instilled in their consciousness. So when you want to address any issue, most especially when you want to address behavioral issues, the most important thing you have to talk about is not what you can see as a behavioral defect. Why? Because in medicine, we are made to realize that we have symptoms and then we have etiology. Now, when we want to treat a certain sickness, we could either treat this patient by treating the symptoms. For example, if someone is coughing, there is headache, all of this, and there are symptoms. But behind the symptoms, there are some things that are causing it. Now, if you want to address the whole disease and sickness of that patient, by giving symptomatic therapy, you've not done anything. You must go to the origin, to the etiology of that sickness. And then when you treat the etiology, then you can be very sure that very soon the symptoms would go. So that is the reason why when I see Nigerians, now we're going on a national basis now, when I see Nigerians always complaining about every other thing apart from values, I just know for sure that there can't be any lasting change. Nothing can happen in Nigeria if we still keep addressing symptoms and the main culprits, the main cause of what we see in Nigeria, which has to do with our values, we are not even paying attention to it. Why? Because the source of any behavior you see, the reason why people do what they do, the reason behind the decisions of people is because of the values. So a person will act wrongly because he has wrong values. It is not rocket science, it's basic. What I'm talking about today is basic. A person with the right set of values will act right. Why? Because every decision we make is informed. So it's either informed by the wrong set of values or informed by the right set of values. So when we see Nigeria today and we see a lot of things happening that are wrong in Nigeria, I can see exactly what the problem is. It's not far-fetched. There's something fundamentally wrong with our values. Simple. And if we can begin to change our values as a people, then we can be very sure that in a matter of time, all the symptoms we are seeing would subside. The same way in medicine too. If I can treat you of the origin, for example, if you're having flu, and I know that flu is caused by influenza virus, and I give you antivirus, and I give you some antiviral drugs, I'll just give you time. All of your symptoms will just go away. It will be a miracle to you. But I know it's not a miracle. Why? Because I knew the source. I knew what is causing the flu. I knew where the temperature is coming from. And it's because of that influenza virus. So as a trained specialist, as a doctor, all I need to do is just say, hey, the source of that sickness is influenza. And I give you the antiviral drug. And sure, in a matter of time, all the symptoms will be gone. The same thing with our nation. If we can begin to address the value system, the mindset, the culture, the thinking of our people, in a matter of time, all of the things that we see will change. Simple, if our values changes. But then, the instilling and the putting of those values into our mindset must be done intentionally. And it must be done systematically. All right, so let's see. I'm going to show you a practical example from the FIFA World Cup. All right, so what is happening right now? I'm going to show you a video from the FIFA World Cup. Now, these are two country fans. This is Senegal and this is Japan. And these guys did something that is worthy of emulation. And I want us to learn from them. All right. So let's watch the first video by the Japanese fans, what they did after their match.
Ganaron.
Muchas gracias.
Ganaron. Felicitaciones.
Muchas gracias.
Mire lo que están haciendo los japoneses, porque ganaron, pero mire lo que están haciendo. Felicitaciones. Felicito. Ganaron. Miren todos recogiendo la basura los japoneses. Esto es una cosa increíble. Y nosotros los colombianos somos unos brutos que no nos damos cuenta que la disciplina, el orden, eso es lo que los hace a ellos mejor. Y mire, véalos aquí. Mire. Esa es la enseñanza para nuestra vida. La enseñanza.
They were cleaning the stadium. Hey. These guys, these are Japanese. Please prepare the Senegalese fans. These are Japanese fans. They went to watch football. Okay? Just like every other country. They went to watch football. But after their match, without pay, they are not paid for it. Without pay, without any form of coercion, or saying, hey, you must do this. They picked up their dustbins and dust bags, plastic bags, and they started cleaning the whole stadium. The whole stadium. Let's watch Senegal. Thank God these guys are representing Africa. At least they gave us hope. Let's watch them. The same thing. The same thing. The same thing. This, I think this is okay. So you just say, this is just a video, so you see that this happened at this World Cup. Now, this is a behavior. And based on what I've explained to you guys earlier, this was informed. What informed this action? No, you guys have to say it loud. Values. What informed this behavior? They didn't just think about it that, oh, okay, I think this place is dirty, let's clean it. No. This is already imprinted in their consciousness. I'm going to show you guys a video of how Japanese schools function, how they do it. From childhood, guys. From childhood, these guys have been taught personal responsibility. Now, these guys, they went to a different country, to Russia, which is not their own country, but their values followed them there. Why? Because you cannot separate a man from his values. When someone shows up, You don't need the Spirit of God to help you discern his values. You can see it from his actions. And this is a national thing, guys. Now, let's watch our beloved Nigerians. So please, can you just show us Nigerian fans? Let's watch. We can do without the audio. We can do without the audio. Let's just see the Nigerian fans. So let's see what the Nigerians were doing. So while the Japanese fans were cleaning the stadium, while the Senegalese fans were cleaning the stadium, let's see what our guys were doing. And you see that this is a value thing with Nigeria. Can you see? Who is that guy wearing white? Can you see what they are doing? See how the whites are looking at us. Can you see? That's what Nigerians are doing. Back. Let's stop it here. This is already okay for me. Now, what were those guys doing? They were what? They were dancing. And they were dancing, they were chanting. You see the guy dressed with the alufa stuff, Celestia. Why did he go there dressed? No, let's analyze this now. Why did that guy go there dressed in a celestial attire? Because of our value, because of the religion mindset that we have. Claim it and receive it. He went there with the bell. Why? Because it's our value system in Nigeria. See, can you see? Just pause it there. No, let's just see this. Can you see with his cap here? You see? This is the celestial, religious mindset. So they went to Russia with this same value system. Why? Because the reason why they're acting like this is because it's a value thing. And they would never think of cleaning the stadium. They would prefer to drum and dance 24 hours. Why? Because it's our value system in Nigeria. So now, someone is now looking for... Some people will now be blaming the government. I'm done with... Can you come back to presentation? Some people will now come and be blaming the government that the government is bad. This thing is bad. This thing... But is it... These people here, are they governments? These people that are seated here, that are cleaning the stadium, are they the government officials of their country? They're not organizers. There's arguing. Kakoi organizers? No. Wait, even at that, but I haven't read, let people go and check the news. I read the news and there was an interview that was made. They interviewed the Senegalese and they interviewed the Japanese. Why were they doing this? Let me tell you what the Senegalese said. He said that this is what we do in our country after every match. I could put a link on the video after this. This is how we do it. When we go to watch a football match, we clean the stadium. Another journalist who had worked in Japan before, he said he was not surprised. Reason being that in Japan, that's how they do it. That's how they are trained from childhood. To be responsible, it's a value system. It has become the way they think. If Nigeria is going to change, we must address our value system. What we're learning in this HMT, questioning, it must move from just being a knowledge thing that we have here. We must propagate it and we must make it such a way that it becomes a value system in our nation. That every Nigerian begins to question everything. All right, so let's move forward. Somehow this is not working. I'm so sorry. With this? By the side, right? I'm coming. All right, now it's working. Thank you so much. All right, so these are my Nigerian fans, all right? So football is what? It's made in Nigeria. All right. So now, look at this picture I have here. Look at this picture. What do I say here? I said that the state, are you guys with me? The state of a nation is the reflection of the values and the inner content of our citizens. You can argue with me from today to tomorrow. This is just the truth. The state of a nation is the direct reflection of the values and the inner content of our citizens. Can you see that picture that I put there? Can you guys see it? So look at it. We have something like a building there. And then we have what is the foundation, which is the value system. All right. So we have the value system there. And then we have pillars. These are pillars. And then we have the nation. So what do we see? We see that the value system serves as the what? As the foundation of every nation. These pillars are the 7 pillars that I'm sure we all know. These are the 7 spheres of influence. So we have the media, education, arts and culture, business, religion, government, family. These are the 7 spheres of influence. But the foundation of every nation, all right, is values. So if we want our nation to stand, all right, what must we address? The foundation. Even if the pillars are strong and the foundation is faulty, what will happen to the building? It will collapse. So now, this is from the scripture that tells us what? Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not what? Turn from it. The same thing also with a nation. Train up a nation in the way the nation should go. 50 years after our independence, it will be like that. So this is just a simple principle that if we can begin to train ourselves with the right set of values, years later, things will still keep being good and even to keep getting better by the day. Why? Because this is a principle. Train a child in the way he should go. When he is old, he will not depart from it. The same thing with the Japanese fans that we saw and the Senegalese fans. The reason why they did what they did was because they were trained from childhood. Don't believe me? Let's watch this video. No, that link doesn't work. But just let's see what is written here. Can you see? Most Japanese schools do not what? Employ janitors or custodians. The Japanese education system believes that requiring students to clean the school themselves teaches respect, responsibility, and emphasizes. Can you guys see values there? But let's watch the video.
たちで自分の部
It's
屋
not
を
showing here.
掃除
Yeah, the video is not showing here. They can't see it.
室がピカピカになると嬉しいし
Yeah, but we can't see it. Can we start again from the beginning? Okay. Please watch and pay attention. Can you see this? Can you see children?
自分たちで
See.
自分の部屋を掃除した方がいいと思います教室がピカピカになると嬉しいし
From spotless. From childhood. They save their lunch. See, they clean water themselves. The why? Can you see? The mob.
自分自身の手で
See.
できるようにするためなので、しばらくはこのまま続いていくのではないかと思います。
See, not house help or janitor. Why won't they be responsible? Preparing them for life.
たくさんの人といろんな場で
Because can you just pause it here?
物を片付けた。
Can you see what they said? Once we become adults, we will what? Eat with other people and we must clean up after ourselves. Now you understand why they went to the stadium and other fans were there. They ate with other people in the stadium, but they cleaned up. These are kids that are maybe 6 years, 7 years. Now you see Japan as a developed nation, you think it's prayers that made them like that. Values, guys. So this is what they teach them in school. This is school. This is education. Instilling values into their minds. So now they are thinking that once we become adults, we won't go to eat and we mess the place up. Values. Now tell me what is more important than values. This is what forms the moral fabric of our nation. All right, let's just end it and then we'll continue. Yeah, let's just
物
continue.
を片付けたりっていうことが大人になるとありますよね。それを子供の時から少しずつ少しず
We
つ
learn them step by step now.
褒めてもらってありがとうとか言ってくれて
You see?
嬉しい。
Arigato gozaimasu. What? Amazing. It's not amazing. Great, I mean, we can clap for them. Yeah, it's worth it. And we start thinking how we're going to do this for Nigeria too. So now you guys will understand why I'm saying that what we are learning here must be transformed into a value system in our people. That is how it would be sustained over the years. That is how from childhood even till adulthood, they will still be questioning like that. All what we're learning here, it has to be instilled into the conscience of every citizen. That's how we can see progress in our nation. Please, can you just switch off that phone? So what did Frederick Douglass say? Very, very profound. This guy, very profound guy. What did he say? He said it is easier to what? To build strong children than to repair broken men. Now, can you see what the battle we're having in Nigeria now? We're trying to repair men that are broken. And the sad thing that is happening that the children that we have now, that we're meant to be building with strong values, we are preparing them to become broken men in the future. And that's the reason why for 50 years, over 50 years, we've not been lucky with a good leader. And if we don't start talking about values, for the next 100 years, we'll never be lucky. Why? Because we are preparing broken men for the future. And we're not building strong children that in the future, they will be strong on values. And they will build our nation forward. So when someone hears me always talk about values and they get tired of me, I'm like, they've not even started. I'm just starting. I'm just preparing this my talk on values. If you just see me, Mr. Value, okay. It's value you want to talk about, okay, no problem. Because I would keep talking about values because this is what forms the foundation of our nation. So what do we need in Nigeria? Can we shout this loud?
Value system revolution.
This is the revolution I'm spearheading. Yeah. I'm doing this. Very soon you guys will see. I'm working on some things. This is my revolution. It has to be a value system revolution. That is exactly what we all need to do. We need to begin to read. Because this is what makes you you. When I meet Christian, I'm not meeting Christian this body. I'm meeting his values. Do you know, I can meet you and then you smile at me without me smiling at you. And I meet you and you frown at me. I meet you and you embrace me. Why different responses? I didn't change. I didn't change. The same me. But I met you, you smiled. I met you, you frowned. I met you, you hugged me. Different values. Simple. So when we meet people, we actually don't meet them. We meet their values. We meet what has been formed in them. So she smiles at me because she has a value of, okay, let's just make this guy comfortable. Okay, yeah, it's a value. Let's just make him good. So I'll smile, no problem. He doesn't have love, no acceptance. So he sees me and he frowns, who are you? There's something informing him. So it's not him, it is his values I met. Now this guy, I met him, and he sees me without knowing me and like, hey, what's up? It's what he's saying what's up to me is his value. Love. So when we go to Nigeria and we say things that are wrong in Nigeria, I see people doing things the wrong way. It has nothing to do with Fulani. It has nothing to do with Yoruba or Igbo. It is values. It is values, simple. Now, the good thing about values is that values are not respecters of people or persons. Values are universal, just like truth. The value of love is universal. The value of peace is universal. Hard work, universal. Honesty, universal. Integrity, universal. You don't need to be a Hausa guy to have the good values of integrity. No. Everybody's. That's the reason why values must be proclaimed, propagated. That's how our nation can progress. So, my revolution is value system revolution. Now, let's look at what Jesus Christ said. You know, when Jesus came, he had his own revolution, right? Hope you guys know. He brought a revolution. We could call the revolution that Jesus Christ brought as a kingdom revolution. All right? So when Jesus came, he brought the kingdom revolution because he came to bring the kingdom of God. He came to bring the will of God. But then, I want us to read what he said here, because what he said here was the last word he said before he left. And he was giving this word to his disciples. And I'm sure you guys realize that most times, the last words of a person before they die, they're very important. The last words are very important. So this, and I put this picture so that you guys will know that this happened before the ascension of Jesus. So before he ascended, he said this to his disciples. And what did he say? He said, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you. All right. So what he's saying is that, listen, I want to bring out some things in this thing, and we're going to move very fast because I have some other slides. The first thing is that, hey, guys, I'm going. I have started a revolution, and you have to continue the revolution. But you cannot continue the revolution until you are empowered, until you are equipped. Good news. All of us here, seated here, the reason why we came for HMT is because we want to receive what? That power. That's right. Just the same way Jesus Christ was talking about, you will receive power. All right. So we've come to HMT, to the art of questioning, and what we have been receiving all this while is power. We've been receiving, we're empowered. All right. We're empowered with all of this that we've been learning. But there's a purpose for this power, and there's a responsibility that comes with the power. Do you guys get that? I'm sorry I'm rushing because of my time. So there is what? Purpose that comes with what? With this power we're receiving, like this knowledge we're receiving, and a responsibility that comes with it. And that's what he talks about here. The next thing. He says, and you shall be my witness. This is the first responsibility that we have. We must be. And I will explain that later. We must first be witnesses. Then after we become witnesses, then we begin to take it where? To Jerusalem, to Judea, to Samaria, and to the remotest part of the earth. Now, what is the lesson here? Now, the final words of Jesus delivered two responsibilities to us all. The same thing that is happening here in HMT. All of the knowledge, the understanding we are receiving in this HMT is for two things. The first one is to be what? To be witnesses, which means to internalize what we have been receiving. We must become what we are listening to. Until we become what we are listening to, we cannot be effective in the next assignment, which is what? To propagate to all parts of the earth. Are you guys with me? Yeah. Though I'm good. Before I end, I would like to get some feedback, but I'm just trying to catch up with what I have. So the first is to internalize it, meaning we'll be learning so much about questioning, and we want to make it a value system. But there are two stages that we must pass. The first and the most important stage is the stage of internalizing what we have received, where it moves from your head and it moves down to your heart, where you become it, where the art of questioning ceases from being what you learned in HMT, but it becomes your life. It becomes your life. And then, after internalizing all of this and we become the message, it becomes a value system in us as individuals. Then we can begin to propagate it. So, this is just a, I'll rush this quickly. This is just a taxonomy, Krathwohl's taxonomy that can help us step by step on how we can internalize these values. All right. So you can check this online. It's available. You can see how it works. The first one is receiving. You know, if you can remember, Pastor talked about Bloom's theory yesterday, right? But now this has to do with how to internalize values. So the first step is receiving. This is when there is a willingness on your part to seek for knowledge. That's where the receiving comes. So the learner is willing to pay attention and to listen with what? With respect. And that's what you guys are doing here. That's what our viewers are doing. They've come to receive first. That's the first stage. And after receiving, you begin to what? Respond. And that's the reason why when pastor is teaching, when he's done teaching or in between, what does he do? He calls you out for what? To contribute, to respond. Why? Because what is happening right now, by receiving is a little bit more passive. Now, it gets more active when you begin to respond. All right? So this is when the learner actively responds and what? And participates. That's the second level. Then valuing. Valuing is, what this valuing means is, you had a certain value system before, okay, that you lived by, which was a priority to you. For example, before this HMT, you never questioned anything. Someone tells you this, you just believe it. That was how you were functioning before. But now, you've arrived at HMT. You are taught. Now you've received information. The second part is that now you've been responding to the information. Now you have to value. Now this valuing is talking about, there are two things that's going to happen in this stage. You have to devalue what you've believed before. All of the lies you've believed, you have to throw it away out of your head. This is the flushing stage, okay? Where you flush all the nonsense and the junks you've believed, and then you place value on the new information you're getting. I don't know if you guys get it. Yeah. So now you're beginning to place value on questioning. That, how dare I just believe this person that just told me this? What was wrong with my head? What happens? Then you now begin to dispose that faulty value system you're working by, and then you begin to value the new information, value the new idea. That's what we see. See? So placing value on the behavior, on the idea. Are you guys getting it? So after you place value, the next thing is that what? You begin to organize it. Why? Because now you're getting new information, and so that you can be able to effectively live out that information, there must be an organization in your mind. This organization is in your mind. It's all in your mind. So you must begin to organize everything in your mind. Now, okay, now when I get an information, I have to question it. I can't just believe everything anybody says. This is how everything, and this is how to develop value in yourself. Anything. We're talking about questioning. It applies for even hard work, even honesty. Any value system, any value you want to develop in yourself, this will help you. So you have to first expose yourself to the information, get the right information that you need. All right. After you get the information, respond. Don't stop at that passive place of listening. Respond to that information. Let it evoke something in you. Let it lead to a form of action. Then you have to now place value on that information. That, oh, this is actually very important. And all I've believed all the while, I have to dispose it. Then after you begin to organize it, and then you get to the last stage, which is what? The internalizing of what? Of values. And at this stage, your value system, can you guys see it? Yeah. Can we read it together? Yeah. Your value system is what? Internalized. And it does what? Now you can understand why those Japanese fans were cleaning the stadium. It was the value system that was what? Controlling their behavior. Well, because it has been internalized. This is where we must get to as a nation. So the next thing is for us to do what? To speak out. This is the propagation. So this comes after you've been able to walk yourself to that point where that value system has become you. Now you're not just giving rhetorics, but your rhetorics and your practice are in alignment. You're not just saying A and your B is the other way, but you are saying A and your life is even making that A so bold and so loud. Just like DSA. When they say teaches love, you don't have to even teach love for you to see that he's a loving person, or humility. His life is showing it. His practice and his words are in alignment. So propagating of values is the second most important thing that we must do. All right. So there are 5 ways you can do this. Let's get this done. The first one is family. All right. So what do I write here? The family is what? Is the basic unit of society, and the faulty and the broken family will produce a what? A faulty and a broken nation. Disagree or not? I agree. Thank you. That's just a sign that it's in agreement. All right. All right. So that's it. A faulty and a broken family will produce what? A faulty and a broken nation. Hence, the family bears a huge responsibility in the what? Direction of a nation. So it all starts in our family. So all what you have been learning here today, you must go to your family and you must begin to take that process of internalizing, okay? You must apply it in your family too. It must be internalized in your family, your children, your brother, your sister, your dad, your mom. It starts from there. Then it moves from family, and now it moves from family to what? To education, all right? Now, I said something about being intentional and being systematic, okay? Now, the good thing about this propagation stuff I'm going to talk about is the systematic way of doing it. Something about being intentional and systematic is that if you bypass one, you cannot escape the other one. I will explain. For example, let's say you don't get taught these values in your family. Okay? You go to school, you hear it. So in the educational system, values and character development must become priorities and must be included in the curriculums of what? In the schools. So let's say your parents are the ones that are not obedient. They don't want to hear. They don't want to inculcate these values, all right? But because it has been systemized and it has been built in the nation, so if you escape your parents, you will not escape your school. That's what makes it systematic. So when they go to school, just like the Japanese students, if their parents do not teach them at home, their teachers will what? Teach them what? In school. They cannot escape it. Okay, now, maybe there are some truants that will not go to school and will escape school. What will happen? They will not escape the institutions. This one works in Nigeria very well. So if they don't learn in their families, if they don't learn in their school, they will go to church or go to mosque. In the mosque and in the church, it must be reinforced again. So what did I say? I said mind transformation must be the purposes of the message coming from our pulpits, not vain prophecies and promises for stuffs. So our pastors and the imams and any religious leader must begin to also emphasize on values. So imagine being reinforced with values. You are at home, mommy and dad is teaching you values. You go to school, they're teaching you values. Go to church, they're teaching you values again. You're overwhelmed with values. There's no how you just have that value system. The next thing is our media. You now go to, you now say, okay, let me just even chill. All right? Let me just even chill and watch television. And you watch television and they say, oh, value system of hard work. You must be hardworking. They just bombard you everywhere. That's how we can make this thing a value system in our nation. The next thing, civil societies. Everybody can start what? A movement, an NGO, or a society to promote and propagate the values in our nation. You know, I want everyone here to go back and sit down and think about it. What do I want to propagate? Now, let me go back to where we started. Can you remember where we started? About the legacy and you being associated with something. Now, you have to go back and think. What association do I want the world to have with my name? What movement do I want to start? What NGO do I want to start? I've made my own decision. Mine with values. So when people remember me, they will know that I started a movement for values. And if I die today, the whole world will remember that that guy stood for values. The way to be remembered is to stand for something. The way to be a history maker is to live for something and die for that thing. So, and everyone can do this. And this is how we can actually transform our nation. Lastly, this is an advice from Robert Baden-Powell. He says, try to live this world a little better, all right? Maybe not tremendously, okay? Just a little better. Just the same way the Senegalese fans, they left the stadium better than they met it, all right? You just try to live this world a little better than you found it. And when your turn comes to die, because we all will die anyways, but when your turn comes to die, you can die happy in feeling that at any rate, you have not wasted your time, but you have done your best. I think this is what you all have to think about. And I'll end my case here today. Thank you. Thank you so much. Before I end, I would like to get questions, and if you have any question, you have a contribution, please feel free to give it. My time is up.
Mine is just a quick question.
Yeah.
I think I asked something similar to this. Because for me, I think every time we listen to the essay teach, or we listen to you success or Victor, we always hear the word, this is the foundation. This is the foundation. So I know we've been studying worldview. So what I want to clarify is it your worldview that determines the value system you have? Or is it your value system that determines your worldview?
All right.
So which?
Cool. You want to say something about it? All right. Okay, so let me address that. So worldview and value system, right? Now, the thing there is that, for example, if you listen to when Pastor was talking about the worldview, you see that he mentioned something about culture. He mentioned also values in it. It is because worldview talks about your perspective. Yeah. It talks about how you process things. And everything, they're all encircled in one container. All right. Worldview, values, culture, they're all intertwined. For example, your worldview, let's talk about the paganistic worldview. Okay. So, for example, one thing that we talked about the paganistic world is the appeasing of God, all right? And wanting only God to do something. That is a value system. And what happens is that it produces people who are what? Who are lazy. Okay? So the worldview, the perspective, the worldview that you have, it produces and it leads to certain values that you live your life by. Okay? So exactly. So your worldview, your perspective is what would create those values that you live by. So it's about your perception. But the thing there is that I like your question because your question is talking about the worldview, the value system, and then I'm even adding culture to it, or belief system, or mindset. They're all intertwined.
Yeah,
all right.
Because what I'm trying to think is when a child is born, right?
Yeah.
You know, when a child is born, he starts growing up, and it gets to a stage where he starts or she starts to have the ability, his brain or her brain begins to
use your
process.
Mic, yeah.
Sorry, his brain or her brain begins to process things.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out in my head which does the child actually grapples with first, because I know the parent starts from onset. The parent starts to train the child.
Yeah.
Right, with some set of values,
yeah,
that will enable the child grow up to start seeing things from a certain perspective. But at the same time, I know
they work hand in hand. But like Sol just say, they're intertwined.
I think this question is the chicken or the egg.
Which one comes first? Yeah.
But I also think that you answered your question, because in the way that you the formation of your question actually answered it. Yeah. You said when a child is born, the child is trained with a value system. So therefore, that answers that it's a value system that came first from people with a certain worldview. But value systems are, yes. So, because if you're talking about an individual is impacted with some value system. Let me tell you something that I learned when I came to Ukraine. I understand that they didn't have value system in Ukraine until Dr. Sunday started teaching them. They didn't even have a definition in Ukrainian language of what value system is. You know, they didn't have that at all. So they didn't know that this is a value, this means a value system. But they learned that along the way. And they must have had a worldview prior to that, So
and they had some values they were living by.
But they didn't know it was a value. They didn't know it was a value system. So I would say for us now, maybe now generation will change it. Now that we know the difference between value system and we are going to imbibe value systems, next generation, when we bring them up, this generation, they would have value system that also informs their worldview. Yeah.
So it's intertwined. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah. Man, for everything. Yeah, all right.
Dr. Value System, I really want to appreciate you for the brilliant presentation. This is my question. There are times that, of course, as an individual, you have your values. But there are organizations too with corporate values.
Yeah.
They tell you that in this organization, this is what we value.
Sure.
Let's say, for instance, you're a doctor, and your value is you value life, and you don't want to abort babies. But you're employed in this institution that values money more than life. And it is your duty, so long you're working with this organization, you have to abort babies.
Yeah.
So how do you manage the conflict between personal values and corporate values?
Yeah.
Yes.
My answer will be simple. But
Before you answer that
yeah.
Before you answer that question,
sorry, it's one person. Yeah.
Before you answer that question,
Yeah.
I have a slightly similar question,
Good,
but
good.
from a different perspective.
All right.
In a society with a cultural mix,
or where the value systems are in conflict because of the dynamics of the people that live within such cultural settings, whereby a particular group might have a different set of value system and another one will have a different set of value system. Now, in the national collective, there is a conflict. How do you resolve such?
Beautiful. I like the questions. They're very smart questions. Very good question, but similar. Okay. Now, this is it. The basis I want you guys to understand is values, the right set of values. All right. The first thing you must understand is that values are universal. Now, when people begin to say, this is my own, and this is my own, and then your own does not align with my own, and this one, no. For example, I already gave some examples. The value system of honesty is universal. If we're in the same society, and I say my value is honesty, and you have another value that's not with honesty, I can't succumb to it. But because it is a supreme value, and it is universal. So what we have most times, when we're talking about, sir, I'll come to your question too, is some cultural bias, all right, and some cultural basis, you understand? But these are not values. Or personal, yeah, some personal things. But when it comes to values, it is standard, universal, the same way truth is. Some people can say, well, this is my truth. Just the way we have it in Nigerian churches. In our own church, they wear scarf. In your own church, they wear scarf. That's not value. That's just personal culture, differences. No. When it comes to the value, we're people of love. Irrespective of your denomination. We live by love. So if we're talking about values now, if we only want to question them, so that's why we must question those things, all right? Those things that are in conflict, we have to question, are they really values, or they are just some personal choices or some cultural beliefs and things that are based on some worldviews? If they are values, we shouldn't have a conflict. Because if they are right values, there shouldn't be a conflict. We ought to align with values, because it's all for everybody and it's for our progress, for our growth. All right? So that's how to do. So we have to apply the art of questioning to that kind of situation. Okay, so the first group, present your own this thing. Second, other group, presents yours. Let's question them. Are they values, or they're just your cultural stuff? And let us align them to values. Now, quickly, with the person that has a conflict of personal value and his work value, the question is, what do you prioritize? All right. What's your priority? Now, is your priority the values that you live by as a person? All right. What is number one for you? And what's number two? For example, if I, as a doctor, I place my own values that I live by as number one, I won't succumb to what another person says. All right. Because that what makes me a personality. What makes you a personality is that you have values and you have standards. That you compromise for nothing. That's what makes you a person. That what makes you stand. And you're not swayed by, like a kid, by any wind of doctrine. What makes you a matured person and a personality is that this is what I stand by. And it's on the truth. I don't care. If you sack me or you don't sack me, if I don't care the money you're going to pay me, this is my value. This is my standard. I don't work there. I check out. You understand? So that's just how it is, okay? But it's difficult for an average person because we're not personalities. Most people are biomasses. And they are ruled and they are controlled by money, by all of the other things. I don't know if you get it. Yeah, that's it. I think we're done, right? We're done. Okay. All right, thank you so much.
Woo! Let's put our hands together for Dr. Anu. Woo!
Thank you so much.
Awesome. That was a very wonderful presentation. Thank you, viewers on Facebook. And this brings us to the end of the third section. We'll be going break here, but we'll be back in 30 minutes with DSA. So don't go anywhere. Don't go too far, and see you soon. Bye.